Dude.
I was listening to the story about, it was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the cowboy man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
Father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses. It would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse, trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hind quarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the dirty. Skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Paranormal Odyssey. I am your very professional host, accompanied by my very professional producer and co-host, Miss Tiffany. What's up, ma'am? You're on mute.
I thought it would unmute me.
Yeah, you thought it'd just do it for you.
I did. We are batting 1,000 tonight, guys. This is going to be so fun.
Oh, my God. I'm going to go ahead and apologize for the shenanigans and all the shit that's going to go on this episode. We were just sitting back there talking to Chad, having just a grand old time. Looked up, and there's a little ticker at the top that tells you it counts down. When it hits 0, you go live. And I looked up, and it was at 0. And I have no idea how long it had been at 0.
We were just chatting it up.
We were just talking like, oh, shit.
Are we supposed to be live? Yeah. Yeah, we were.
So, professionalism is not our strong point
It is
here
not.
At Paranormal Odyssey, but fun is.
Yeah, we're always loads of fun. It's always an adventure wherever we are.
What's up with you, ma'am? How's it going out in Virginia?
It's going good. It's going good.
Hotter than two weasels doing it in a wool sock?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I sent you that text message today when I got to the store and it was 100 degrees. And I was like, oh my God, I just want to go home. And so by the time we got back here, now we live at the foot of a mountain, but it's still surrounded. It was 90. So it was 10 degrees cooler. Not that 90 degrees is cool, but it's cooler than 100.
Yeah, 90 degrees still sucks. I don't understand how the whole humidity thing works, because I talk about the humidity around here is what makes it so bad. They talk about like out in Arizona, and Chad can probably talk a little bit to this, being from the West Coast. They talk about it being a dry heat, and like 110 isn't as bad as like 95 here. And I don't understand how all that works. I just know that here on a summer day in Tennessee, you step outside in July and you're sweating instantly.
Instantaneously. And it's so not to talk about my husband's shower habits, but he got home tonight from work. He got out of the shower and he's like drying off, and he's like, no matter how much I dry off, I still feel wet. But it's just the humidity. It's gross.
You don't want to talk about Mr. Tiffany's shower habits? Do you have pictures?
So today is Alex's birthday.
What's up, Alex? Change the subject.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Alex. We love you, buddy. Can't wait to get my bar and the other projects that you have been working on for me. Love you, buddy. You are the man.
Yes.
Putting your life on the line every single day out in DC, protecting and serving. You are awesome, buddy. Happy birthday. We love you. Thank you for everything that you do. Seriously.
Everything. And Zach said he can provide some pictures.
Lathering up with that Dr. Squatch.
Poor Alex. Dang, all I got's a naked man shower shoot.
Oh, God. This is what you get, folks.
No,
Paranormal Odyssey After Hours live on Saturday night. All right, before we go any further, let's talk about the poll question. Do you believe portals may be to blame for some of the strange missing persons cases? And it is split right down the middle, y'all, 50-50. Half y'all say yes, half y'all say no. I think that it does. If just real quick, Tiff, if you watch the video that we put out today, and not many of you have, I mean, what the hell? Get out there, let's share it, guys. Let's get this thing going. But we talk about this case, this guy named Morgan. He's just fucking disappeared. I mean, no sign of him has been seen in years. Dude knew what he was doing. He was extremely experienced. Go check out the latest episode of Missing Person Case Files here on Paranormal Odyssey. Dude just disappeared, and portals is what I lean toward. I didn't mean to cut you off, man. What were you going to say?
Oh, no. It's totally fine. I think they do. I think so spoiler alert, okay, because I recorded a missing person episode today. Don't come out tomorrow. I mentioned it in there. Did I say that this is what happened to this person? No. But I said it was a possibility. Because when you have cases like this, and you have, as humans, we try to put everything in this logical box in our brains. It's just our nature. Yeah. Sometimes logical does not fit. So then you have to look outside of your logical box. And some people just aren't willing to look outside of their logical box because it is just so far. And I mean, and I get it. But at the same time, how does somebody who is standing directly next to somebody else, 1 second, homeboy turns back around, he's gone.
Yeah. I mean, you have to start looking outside the box. I mean, people came in, they did their job, they did their due diligence, they did what they are trained to do in going out and looking for this man, and found nothing. If he fell in the river and drowned, you would have found something by now. Something would have happened. If the man stepped into a portal, something that we know nothing about, that might explain it.
Yes.
But, we're almost 9 minutes in, and I hate to get off on that tangent, but this is Saturday night, and we can go a little bit longer as long as our guest, Chad, is able to. But, we'll go ahead and jump into paying some bills. You want to?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's get this going. If anyone's not watching or watching it later is new to the channel, thank you very much for stopping by. Please do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. We would greatly, greatly appreciate that. Tell your family, tell your friends, help Tiffany and myself continue to grow this show.
And if you would like to be on with Wayne and myself, you can reach out to both of us, Wayne and Tiffany, at paranormalworldproductions.com. We are booking into August. We are completely booked for July because our shows this month are shorter because we're all going to be going out of town. So, but we are fully ready to book you for August. Just reach out to one of the two of us, please.
ParanormalWorldProductions.com is our website. Please head over there, check out all the other shows, pick up some merch, all of that good stuff. Even though we're probably not going to get into it much tonight, Tiffany and I have had a conversation about the merch, and it might get to a point where we get you guys to just buy it directly from us because there's an issue going on with our merchandise provider. I don't want to take any more time away from Chad, so we're not going to go into great detail about it tonight. But yeah, if you would like a Paranormal Odyssey t-shirt, reach out to one of us and we can help you get that done. T-shirt or hoodie. But other than merchandise, there's all kind of other stuff you can do at paranormalworldproductions.com. Please sign up for the newsletter. Brian works very hard on that every Sunday to get that out to you guys. And check out some of the other shows under the studio's umbrella. But you got to head to paranormalworldproductions.com to do so.
And if you have any questions for tonight's guest, please put them in all capital letters. I will highlight them during the show, and we will do a rapid fire question answer at the end of the show. And I had also mentioned to Brian, let me get up to it, that I would mention this for him if I can find it. He is going to be having a NC Bigfoot adventure. It is going to be him and RPG. There, it says here 15 seats. However, they are down to like 8 maybe seats left. If you go to this website, ncbigfootadventures.com, it has the itinerary for the days that you're going to be there. Your guest speaker will be Brian and RPG. So definitely head over to that. They are going to, I think, Marble, North Carolina.
I think that's it.
I think that's what it is. So yeah, absolutely go over there. And if you want to go, you have to get your seats now because they are selling fast.
Yeah, and one last thing, guys, before we bring Chad out, want to invite everyone out there that is not already a member of Paranormal Odyssey. We would love to have you sign up. It's $1.99 a month. You get access to extra content, extra live events. What did Mr. Tiffany say?
Pay $1.99 to see my shower pictures.
Your $1.99 gets you free or get you shower pics of Mr. Tiffany.
That's your extra content.
There you go. There you go.
We're totally
kidding. We have a Discord, all that cool stuff. We hang out over there, have a really good time. We would love to have you spend that extra less than $2 a month to come and be a member, support the show, help us continue to grow and do what we are wanting to do.
Absolutely.
All right. All of that being said, guys, about a month or so ago, we had Mr. Chad Garcia on. He came on and talked about his time in New Orleans. You know, while he was in the Army, he was stationed in New Orleans with Hurricane Katrina relief. And of all the episodes I've done, guys, this one touched me probably the most. Some of the stuff, Chad does a really, really good job at describing what he experienced and what he and his fellow Army veterans went through. I wouldn't wish on anybody. It was horrific. That episode will forever stand out with me with just as being one of the most vivid and just heart-wrenching episodes that I've ever been a part of. So we asked Chad to come back. He's going to be telling some more Army stuff, and yeah, we're just going to hang out with him for as long as he can. And he is in California, so it is daylight there, so don't let that throw you off. It is very, very dark where we are at, but it is daytime there. So, Tiffany, if you're ready, we're just going to bring Chad out.
Yeah, let's get him.
Chad, man, what's up, buddy?
How you guys doing?
We are so glad to have you back on.
Thank you.
Doing great, buddy. Thank you so very much for taking the time to come and hang out with us from beautiful, sunny California.
Yeah, highlight the word sunny. It is right now. It's 7:15 at night, and I'm looking. I'm in my truck, and it's 97 degrees right now.
Holy shit!
Today, when we left Bakersfield, so I'll explain what I'm doing right now. But when me and my buddies, uh, me and two other combat vets, we left Bakersfield as 115. We get down here to Lake Paris, which is just north of San Diego. We're about 45 minutes north of San Diego, and it was 105. So right now,
115. That's illegal, right? I mean, that's like
I
against the
mean,
law.
that's like
Huh.
Venus weather, man. Like that's not even supposed to be a thing. 20 years ago when I did my first deployment to the Middle East, I remember, you get that first phone call. It's kind of like jail. When you get to where you're deployed, you get a phone call. You get to contact family, and here I was, Private First Class Garcia, and I called my mom and I said, "Mom, it's 120 degrees here." That was a big deal back then. And now regularly here in California, especially in Bakersfield, which is about 2 hours north of LA, we're pushing one. It's been over 100 degrees for the past week and a half, and it's not showing any sign of dropping.
That's insane. Is it a dry heat?
The best way I could describe it, because I did listen to your guys' intro of the show, and I was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I was in, obviously, for basic training and stuff, I was in Fort Benning. So I've experienced the South. I was in Fort Bragg for 7 years. I know what that humidity is in North Carolina and in Georgia. It is a dry heat in California. It's like having a giant tanning light above you at all times. And it's so miserable that, and I don't know how people feel about climate change and whatnot, but growing up in the summers, we'd be outside riding our bikes. Kids would be outside playing, especially in the suburban LA areas that I grew up in. Kids would be out in the fields and doing BB gun wars and whatever. You don't see kids out anymore because it's too damn hot. My son this morning had a championship flag football game at 8 a.m. and by halftime, like 4 kids had fallen out and were like done. It's miserable. It's and in our little group message thing, I like posting the weather things because in California, we got Sasquatches up north, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself how miserable a mama Sasquatch would be with a baby hanging off of her, nursing, and probably looking for directions from like the male Sasquatch who's lost. And I can imagine what those arguments must be like.
Yeah. That's what I had said. It's no wonder she's bitchy because I'm here to tell you.
I bring it up to all my friends on the drive down here. I'm like, dude, because they're fascinated that I believe in Sasquatch, and I'm like, look, man, if these things are real and it's 110, that screenshot I sent you guys was from Willow Creek. I was like, I wonder what Willow Creek is, and they're up in the hundreds, which is unreal. That's insanity.
So compare it. You've done spent some time in Georgia and Louisiana, like you said, and you live in California. So compare the two. What is it like? I've always wondered because I've never been out west. I don't know what the difference is.
This is, if you were to ask me that question 10 years ago, I'd tell you hands down California. Because it was, you'd get your 100, 103, 105 here and there. You wouldn't get 2-3 weeks straight 100-degree weather. So 10 years ago, I would have told you California. Now, man, I think I would probably much rather be in the South.
Really?
Yeah, because it's so damn hot here. I mean, put your head in the oven and try and hold it there as long as you can. It is that hot here. It burns. I mean, you can't leave any metal laying outside. You touch it, you burn. My daughter left a toy outside. She went and she grabbed it. She got burned. It's brutal, man. There's something.
Yeah.
It's something evil about it, man. I don't like it. So I'd rather be in the South.
I was doing some research today on the missing persons case files that Tiffany and I have been working on. And I was doing some research and I looked into some cases of some people out west, and this one, I think, dude was 71 or 72, and he went for a hike in Death Valley, out like in Arizona and stuff. It was 120 something degrees, and dude died.
Yeah.
He went out he cut his hike halfway and then headed back. And when he got to his car, he collapsed. And someone found him and called 911. And they got there. They like shocked him there. They did CPR, all that stuff. They couldn't bring him back. Of course, he was in his 70s. He was an older gentleman. He shouldn't have been out in 120 something degree heat, but he just wanted to prove to himself that he could do it. I mean, and how shitty is it that he made it all the way there and back and then died at his car?
That's gut wrenching.
I mean, how shitty is it that he turned 71 and lived a light, nice, full life, and that's how he chose to die? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of it. I hate where I live, and I was born and raised my early life in the L.A. Orange County area, so I'm a total Southern California guy. We moved to Bakersfield, like in the middle of my childhood, and I've never liked it. It's home, but I don't like it. I hate it. It's miserable. It's the armpit of California. It's bad.
I can't imagine, man, living out on the other side of the country. That's literally the other side of the country from where Tiffany and I are. And I've watched videos, I've watched movies, documentaries and stuff. People that live out there, and just that way of life that you experienced as a kid. It's just so much different.
Oh, it's definitely a concrete jungle. I mean, one of the things that, because I never traveled. I think the farthest I traveled as a kid was to Oregon and Las Vegas. And in 2001, when I shipped out for basic training, I remember when I woke up on the flight, I looked out the window and it was green as far as you can see. I had never seen so many trees, so much green. I was like, this is wild. And the way the rivers all wind, I said, this is, because we have an LA river. I'm using air quotes. We have an LA river, but it's concrete. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's different. Your guys' beaches are crazy because they're so warm. You go out to the Pacific Ocean, it's cold. It's
Really?
not. Oh, it's not, your guys' water is like bath water. You can walk right out. In
Yeah.
California, here's how a Here's how a typical trip to the beach in California goes. It's hot, 110 like it is. The sand, by the way, as you're walking out there, you're wearing sandals. There's no taking from your car to the parking lot to the beach. You're wearing sandals on that sand because it is like fire. But once you get down to where the water's, with the low tide and the high tide's been kind of up and moving all day, you can take your sandals off and you're able to walk on it. But that water's cold.
Really?
Oh yeah, I scuba dive and you got to wear wetsuits because it's so cold. It's getting warmer. A lot of the great whites are starting to come up a little more north, but yeah, man, it's your guys'. I love your guys' beaches.
Oh yeah. I was just in Panama City a few weeks ago, and the weather. I mean, the water was awesome. I'm not a big like here in Tennessee. My son owns a boat, and we go out probably a couple times a month. I go out with them and take the babies and the kids and everything, and have a great time. This time of year, the water is warm, but I just don't like to swim in lake water. I don't like swimming in water that I can't see below
Yeah,
me.
I'm not a big fan of lakes either. We don't have very many lakes in like southern. I mean, there are like I'm actually at Lake Paris right now, but no one in Southern California. Not I don't want to say no one, but going to lakes wasn't like a big thing. We got the ocean just right here, but I like going to the lakes in different places I was stationed. I mean, North Carolina had some cool places. Alaska, I was stationed up there for 4 years, my last 4 years, and there's lakes all over the place out there. I fished on frozen lakes. That's some cool stuff. I know you're an outdoors guy. I did some ice
Oh
fishing.
yeah,
It's good
yeah,
stuff.
very cool, very cool. All right, so Chad, I know that you had we're going to go ahead and get to the spooky. And I don't want to upset anybody that tuned in to hear the weird, crazy, scary shit. But yeah, Chad, you had mentioned a couple of things that you would like to talk about on this episode. Maybe the Sixth Sense stuff and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Just take off, buddy. Talk. The show is yours. Talk about what you want.
Yeah, so the New Orleans stuff, I'd love to go into that. If anybody wants to hear about that missed it, or you guys have questions about it. Been
Yeah.
thinking a lot about that place. It's just, New Orleans is just something else, man. But one of the things I was thinking about talking about is when you listen to all these different shows about Sasquatches and mind speak and these other shows that talk about ESP, and if you're a coast to coast listener, you heard George Norrie talk about tons of ESP and telepathy and stuff. And I've never experienced anything like that. But what a lot of people who have been in combat scenarios and been downrange, and it goes back thousands of years, there's this feeling you get, which I guess some people who have experienced a ghost or Sasquatch or UFO might feel that hair on the back of your neck stand up. But just within a minute or maybe 30 seconds prior to being in a pretty heavy tick, troops in combat, combat scenario, firefight, gunfight, whatever you want to call it, there is something. There is an energy, man. And I would hear about it as like a young soldier, as a private, and I'd hear leadership talk about it, like, oh, you'll know when an ambush is coming, or you'll know when shit's about to go down. You'll feel it. And me coming from at the time, a very strong Catholic superstitious person, I was like, oh wow, like what's that about? And so I would read up on it and see what I could find online or on books. And there's not much about that you can find about it. There's some Greek writings that some of the Greek philosophers and writers would talk about. But I just thought I'd kind of tell you some of the things that I personally witnessed and felt, if that interests anybody. I don't really know where to start, but I mean,
Oh yeah, go ahead, buddy.
So there, when I was telling you about New Orleans and just being in that old city, there's an energy that I told you guys about. There was I don't know what it was. I can't describe it, but there was something around you that I felt. When I deployed to Afghanistan, and my primary role as a young airborne infantryman was to basically just do ground patrols. On my first deployment there, it was ground patrols. It was, walking outside of my outpost and going to look to get into a gunfight. Like, let's go draw these guys out. Let's go, And I'll never forget the first time I experienced it. I was actually gunning a truck, a big MRAP armored vehicle. So a lot of people are probably familiar with, the Humvees. But in Afghanistan, we had armored vehicles, and they were MRAPs and MAPVs. The MRAPs have a back door that go down, and they can fit like a squad of guys. So like 8 guys, you got 2 up front and a guy gunning up top. The MATVs are like souped up, badass armored trucks that seat 4 and have a gunner up top, and they got a little truck bed in the back. So I was gunning an MRAP, and we were coming across this area that we called Ambush Alley. It was checkpoint 7, just south of my outpost. And it's loud, the truck's loud. I got the headset, the VIC system in my ears, so I can talk to my driver and my squad leader at the time. We all talk to each other, and so we're on our vehicle net that we can all talk amongst each other. And then I'm hearing the platoon net and the company net switch back and forth in case, like, my forward observer's talking to aircraft. Like, we can all hear all these different conversations going on. And as we come across this roundabout, kind of like the road kind of went and kind of hooked back, I just got this feeling like, look over here. Like something drew my attention. I didn't see anything. I didn't obviously hear anything, but it's almost as if everything just paused, even though we were moving at a slow pace, even though there was some chatter on the net. Everything just kind of paused, and I was like laser focused on this area over here. And I want to say we drove probably about, I don't know, man, 20, 30 feet, not very far. And that's where I saw some flashes. And I'm like, oh, contact. That's what we say, contact, 2 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So we had, there's a turret. There's like a electric motor turret that it had a little handle, and you can turn it to where you can adjust the gun anywhere you want. It goes in a 360. And I'm sitting on like a belt, so I'm sitting down in this turret, and there's like a belt system that I'm sitting in, like a seat. And I move the turret over, and that's where, I, even with the Vic head system on and stuff, I'm hearing the rounds hit around us. And I immediately returned fire. I had a 50 caliber machine gun. I immediately returned fire. All kinds of chaos going over the net. What do you got? What do you see? So I'm trying to return fire and communicate what I'm seeing while my TC is looking through a window that's about this big, right? The windows on the MRAPs are about probably that big, and they're super thick. And so we noticed that we're getting hit from that area. And it, once we returned fire, you had 4 vehicles returning fire with everything from 50 cal machine guns, 240s, Mark 19 grenade launchers. That entire ridgeline was lit up. And so and then what happens is when you start doing that, it kicks up a lot of dust, and now you can't see shit. So we had to kind of, lower our rate of fire and cease fire completely to let everything clear up. And what happens in a firefight after that is that if rounds are complete and there's no enemy fire coming back, well, now you got to get some guys to dismount the vehicle and go do a BDA, which is a battle damage assessment. And they got to actually walk up there and do an assessment of what just happened, how many guys we kill, this, that, and the other. The threat level and the danger level skyrockets at that point, because now you have troops in the open, right? You got your guys now no longer in the vehicles, and now they're moving the open. So now it's up to all of us in the vehicles who are gunning to be able to cover them and watch that ridgeline more closely. They did the battle damage assessment, found nothing. It was just probably a couple guys saw us, opened up, and that was it. And then we just unleashed hell, and then they took off. But that was my first firefight that I ever experienced. And I remember going back to my B-HUD afterwards on my outpost and just kind of laying on my rack and thinking to myself, did they shoot first? And maybe I felt it, or but I didn't see anything. And there were 3 other trucks behind me. Nobody saw any flashes. So how did I know to look that way? I didn't see a muzzle flash. I didn't see nothing. I just it's as if something told me, turn your head, look that way, your reality at this moment needs to be focused on that area. So that was my first experience with it. And that deployment, there was a lot of things that went down in that deployment, but I didn't experience it again on that one. Fast forward 2011, I'm now a team leader and an acting squad leader. So I'm holding the rank of sergeant. I'm promotable to staff sergeant. Got some time under my belt. I'm experienced. I've earned my combat infantry badge. I'm leading guys. We're doing a lot of dismounts, which means that, we're doing a lot of foot patrols. We're doing a lot of air assault missions where we're getting flown into areas about 2, 5, 10 kilometers north of our outpost. They're dropping us off on Chinook helicopters. And that's where I think I had some of the most profound experiences with this. when I should say that when you're patrolling and when you're, you know, in that environment, you know, you're suited and booted, you got your kits on, you're walking outside the wire to go look for enemy activity, your head's on a swivel always. As you're patrolling, you're not just walking looking forward, you know, like just do like you're patrolling, you're looking, your head is your head should never stop moving longer than 2 seconds, right? Like you should always be looking behind you, even if there's guys behind you. Like everyone needs to be looking. So I was highly trained on that. I had some amazing leadership early on, and I was used to doing that. Now in that deployment, I was the highest ranking sergeant, team leader, so I was point man. So I was alpha team leader, and I was point man. So you had me, Bravo team behind me. That was my section, and then behind my section you had the second section with 2 fire teams as well. So we would be on these foot patrols, and I want to say right as fighting season kicked off. And okay, so fighting season, in case people are wondering, in Afghanistan, it's 10,000 feet above sea level on average, right? It goes anywhere from 6 to sometimes 12,000 feet, but on average, it's about 10,000 feet. So in the winter times, you're getting dumped on with snow. Lots of snow. Afghanistan gets cold, but once that snow melts, and once those rains stop, and the summer, late spring, summer comes, these dudes are ready to fight. They've been bogged down all winter. At the time, they were in sandals and man dresses and like Chinese and Soviet era web gear to hold their magazines in and stuff. Now, of course, they got a shit ton of gear and equipment that we gave them. That's a story. It's a story for another day. But nowadays, the Taliban and those guys are they got a lot of good equipment and boots and gear. But back when I was there in 2011, 2012, these guys couldn't fight in the winter. So summertime they brought it. That's fighting season. Well, I want to say it was probably like my second or third mission as point man as fighting season kicked off, and I'll never forget the village. It was called Hockey Calais, and it was about probably 2 clicks northwest of our outpost, and we had just left a KLE, a key leader engagement, where my platoon leader would sit down with the village elders and they'd talk and bullshit, and he'd ask them what you need and what can we do to help, and trying to win the hearts and minds type. That's what we were trying to do. And then get shot on the way out, always, every time. Every time you left these villages, you knew you were going to get hit. But on this particular mission, which I chose a different route back than what we came. You never want to take the same way out for obvious reasons. So I chose a different route that was approved by my lieutenant, and we're coming up, and I got this feeling like very similar to what happened on that other deployment. And it's as if time slowed down. It's like every movement I made was like I was in like a fluid almost. There was a bird that was walking on like a little stone wall, and I swear I could hear it. I could hear its little bird feet walking on it. Everything got quiet, and I want to say every single cell in my body knew what was going to happen right now. It's as if I didn't tell myself, but I just fucking knew. Sorry. I just knew.
You're good. You're good.
I knew what was coming. And I used to have my radio. So I had an earpiece with like a mic right here, but I would still have to like key my mic up, which was on my chest, on my rig, on my chest kit, right here, and I'd key it up. And just as I went to go say, we need to take a short halt, or Blue 5, come up here for a second. Just as I went to go key my mic, I heard that crack. I heard a pop and then a crack. And it was like the 4th of July just opened up from our 12 o'clock and from our 9 o'clock. And it was hard. And I knew it. Like, I knew what was going to happen. I didn't see nothing. I didn't, hear anything. It's like time itself slowed down, and I was able to like feel what I was about to experience, if that makes any sense. And it was so intense. Now, obviously, I didn't sit there and be like, oh man, like I saw it coming. Like, I got into gear, we reacted to contact, laid down suppressive fire. The other section went in, moved in, like we did what we were trained to do. And after that event, when we were doing the debriefing, my platoon sergeant walked up to me and he said, you kind of hesitated, like right as things, did you see something? I said, no, I didn't see anything. I felt it. And I remember Sergeant Jones, who was the guy that never went on mission with us, he worked in the Tactical Operations Center. He was overlooking the computers and the maps and everything. And he kind of looked at me and he kind of chuckled. And he's like, what are you, a fucking psychic? And I said, no, man. Like, I felt it. Like, I don't know if it was like the energy with, it's hard for me to put into words. I don't know if like that moment, when they say that ghosts are just shadows of things that have happened, like, maybe a ghost isn't an actual entity walking around. Maybe it's just a memory. I felt like I was the opposite of that. Like, I was entering a moment in time that stuck, because there were people killed on that, not our guys, but a lot of we killed a lot of them. I want to say like half of their element we took out, and it's a lot of death for one occasion. And I just feel like the energy, like I felt it. I don't want to keep saying that because I wish I could articulate it more, but
yeah, I get exactly what you're saying, Chad. It's hard to put into words, and I don't want to compare like what I have felt in the woods. I don't want to compare that to what you are talking about over there in battle. Your lives were on the line. People were dying around you. It's not the same thing, but it is.
it is
The
100%.
same
I don't
thing.
think it doesn't matter what you do. Man, I'm telling you, Wayne, it if I say I lived it before, that doesn't do it justice. But it's like I just knew what was going to happen. And for whatever reason, I don't know if something inside of me like opened up. I don't know if like, I have some kind of superpower after that, but like I started noticing it almost every single time. I knew. It's like you can just know, oh, this is an ambush, or it got to a point where I would leave the wire and I would look at the mission and I would say, man, we're gonna get hit. Like, and they laugh, a couple guys would get laughed, but then they stopped laughing when we would come back and do our debriefs and be like, Sergeant Garcia called it. And my medic, who is also pretty strong Catholic, he's like, how do you know all this? And I think I just felt it. I became very in tune to my surroundings. I could pick up on it, and I just knew. I don't know, man.
We have to pay attention to that sound that we get. We all get it, and I think it's there for a reason, and we have to pay attention to it.
And I think it's just like, when you have an encounter with Sasquatch or you have paranormal or UFO, you're more aware of it. the stillness that happens, everything goes quiet around you. And so I think when it happens again, you're more open and aware of the situation than somebody else.
And once an event happens, like car accident, Sasquatch sighting, UFO sighting, combat, I think the chaos and the fear and the confusion of the experience kind of takes away from it. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think people experience this a lot more. Like, if you ever got a phone call back in the day before caller ID and you were like, that's my mom calling. Or, remember back when we had house phones and stuff, and, before these smart devices came out and you saw who was calling you, you'd be like, oh, that's so-and-so calling me. Like,
I can just tell by the way the phone's ringing.
yes, my mom used to say that. Yes.
I just know
it. Yeah, and it. I just think we experience it a lot more than people just don't talk about it enough. I think it happens all the time, but we're so drawn out by Wi-Fi signals and the technology and the fast pace of life and everything that we just don't pick up on it. And when you're out there in the woods looking for an 8-foot tall hairy creature, or in the mountains of Afghanistan looking for dudes in sandals, you're more in tune to your environment. You're more in tune to nature. I mean, I don't want to say it just happens in nature, because I've had discussions with buddies on the drive down here to where I'm at, and they spent all their time in Iraq, and they said that, yeah, man, you definitely know when it's coming. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's ESP. I don't know what it is, because anybody that's been in combat, anybody that's experienced a gunfight, it's very chaotic. It's very confusing. It's scary. I'm not gonna lie. The first time I felt rounds with him cracking by my head, I mean, it was like, what the hell is that? And then, oh shit, man, these are rounds within like a 2-foot space of my head, and that's scary. And so there's a lot of energy that goes into it. When you think of think of D-Day, for example. That just passed last month, the anniversary. Think of the amount of energy put off by all those dudes storming the beaches and the Germans laying down all that fire, with the guns going off in the water. I mean, it's an energy. It's the best way I can put it. It's something that we put out, and I just think I felt that about to happen. I think it was just revved up so high. Maybe I was picking up on what these Afghan dudes were about to do. I don't know, but it's very real. It's intense. It's strong,
Right.
and it's the best way I can describe to how actual psychics and people, clairvoyants, probably experience on a daily basis, because I've had little bits of it.
Yeah, I think we were all born with it. I think it was instilled in us long, long ago, but we have pretty much exercised it out of us. Let's change the gears a little bit.
Yeah.
You also, if you don't mind, Chad, you said that you wanted to talk about your August 7th, 2012, when my soldier was killed and I saw his body and it looked empty, as if whatever we are inside was gone. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I wear this bracelet every day of my life. It's my KIA bracelet. By the end of that deployment, this was August 2012. We were expected to go home about September, October. We didn't really have an exact time frame, but we knew that the end of the deployment was coming. I wouldn't say we were getting complacent, because with what our op tempo with missions, meaning that like how busy we were, was high. We were always going on 2-3 day missions. We were doing nighttime SKTs, which small kill teams. So we would go out at night, walk up ridge lines, overlooking roads, and where we'd get intel and about IED emplacements, and we would sit there on ridge lines late at night under darkness, not moving, and we'd watch guys go and dig in IEDs. And the funny thing is that we'd let them do it. We'd watch them do it all night long, and then once they were thinking they were good to go and they'd drive off, we'd waste them. So they spent the last hour of their life working. But we were so busy that we were looking very forward to going home and getting complacent. I wouldn't go that far. I would say that we were just tired. You know what I mean? We were tired. And the night before, on the night of August 6th, my soldier had overslept and didn't make it down to his guard duty on the ECP, the entry control point of our outpost. We lived on a tiny outpost that you can fit inside of an NFL coliseum. My platoon, Task Force 3 Charlie, was the only reconnaissance platoon in 425 that ran our own outpost. So at any given time, there was my platoon plus our support guys, 20 dudes, 20 Americans, and about 30 to 40 Afghan army guys. We had gotten pretty close with these guys. We'd gone on missions with them. They'd lost like 4 dudes. We'd been in firefights with them. We had a cool working relationship with these guys. But if you remember in 2012, the U.S. government was handing things over to the Afghans, and part of what that plan was to give them control of combat outposts so that the Afghan army can start operating and doing patrols and doing things on their own. It's kind of like, we were, letting them out the nest a little bit, or I guess you'd look at it like we were leaving the nest and leaving it to them. So that meant that a lot of new Afghan guys were coming in, a lot. And by August of 2012, we had probably 60 Afghan army guys and about probably 20 Afghan AUP guys, Afghan uniform police. And it was a lot of Afghans on that tiny outpost with just 20 or so Americans. So that night, my soldier slept. I got a little upset with him, and I said, hey, we got a mission tomorrow, a quick route recon, and when we come back, you're going to clean all the crew serve weapons on the vehicles. So the 50 cal, the 240s, the Mark 19, you're going to clean them all. And he was like, Roger, Sergeant, no problem. And I was like, come on, man. We're 10 months into this deployment. You're about to get promoted to E4. You're sleeping on duty and shit, man. What are you doing? So we go and we do that mission. It's a simple route recon. We go up about probably 2 clicks in our trucks to the switchbacks, which were it was a road system that kind of went like this and zigzagged up to the top. And at the top of the switchbacks, is really badass. There was a plaque there was a Russian Soviet plaque that the Soviets had put on this mountain because back in the 80s, the Soviets came through and wasted 500 Afghan guys that they were fighting and would send helicopters down into that valley and just waste villages. So it was a big thing for the Soviets. And we'd go up there, and that was kind of our spot where we'd stop. We'd get out of our trucks. We'd look down the valley, and we'd wait. Do you guys want to fight today? Do you guys see us? Obviously, we're way up here, and you saw us drive up here. We'd kind of use that to lure them into fights and see what we could notice and maybe come across an IED. I don't know. So we go back. We go back to the outpost, and I tell my soldier, his name was Corporal Ethan Martin. He was from Bonners Ferry, Idaho. And I tell him, I said, hey, man, get on those weapons. The rest of us are going to start packing because we're moving all of our shit out of here and giving this place to the Afghans. So we had to pack. And we didn't just come back from mission and put some guards up on our guard positions and just go on our laptops and watch movies and stuff. And we had shit to do. So we're all busy. We're all moving stuff around, and he's cleaning the weapons. And where we lived in our living quarters, we had 3 B huts that housed like 8 of us. And then we had an aid station where my medic lived, and where he had an operating table in case we needed it, and he had all his medical equipment. And then we had what we called the MWR, where we had like a computer with a satellite phone and internet service, so we can like talk to family on Facebook or whatever. Skype. Skype was the big thing back then. You guys remember Skype?
Yep.
And then we had like a small gym that we worked out in, and that was it. And then the mortar pit that we lobbed mortars out of in case we needed fire support. We had 3 120 millimeter mortars. And then just to the south of that was our airfield. I'm at a skydiving drop zone right now, but it's not a drop zone. It was our DZ, it was our LZ, our landing zone, where the Chinooks would come pick us up when we do air assault missions. So we're hanging out. The guys are all smoking and joking and working and packing, and he's cleaning the weapons. And I noticed there's like a lot of Afghan army guys walking around, which is very uncommon because they usually stayed over here to the north side and we stayed over here. There was like this unspoken thing that like we just didn't intermix. We weren't allowed to go just hang out with them, and same thing with us. We were very separated. But on this afternoon, there was a lot of them. And one of them had come through and had asked my medic for something, and my medic had given him like some bandages or something. I can't remember what he gave him. And I remember looking at my medic, I was like, that's weird. Like usually they go to the TOC and tell Sergeant Barnett or Sergeant Jones, like, hey, we need something, and they get that to the PL and to our platoon sergeant, and then we'll get it to them. They don't just walk over here. So that was odd. I go into one of the B huts to grab a box to throw some stuff in, and from behind me I hear what I thought was like fireworks. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck's that? And then it dawned on me what it was. Now here's a moment where I could have totally fucking used that ESP, but it seemed to like not be working on this day. And I realized right away what that was. And I remember I looked back and I was like, who's shooting? Like, do we got guys up top? Because on top of our hill, we would occasionally, test fire and whatnot. But it was closer than that. And as I turn around and I look down the door of the B hut, there's an Afghan army soldier, the same one that had asked my medic for some bandages or whatever. And he's staring at me with an M16 pointed right at me. And I immediately jump back behind this tough box. And as I do that, he's firing, and I'm hearing the rounds hit the door that was just behind me. My rifle's about 5 feet away from me. I had set it down. I went to go grab it, and as I grabbed it to come up to engage, he's gone. And I'm hearing shooting getting farther and farther away. As I go to exit out the B hut door, Sergeant Stretch, one of my forward observers, comes running past me and kicks that door that I just heard got shot open. And behind him comes one of my soldiers, my Mark 48 machine gunner, Devin Howley, comes running through me. And I notice as I look at him, he's got blood on him, and he's got a thick trail of drops of blood, big fat drops of blood behind him, and he's screaming. And so I immediately follow him out. He collapses at the door, and I immediately start assessing what's going on with him. I thought he got shot in the mouth because he's bleeding profusely out of his mouth, and I saw he was bleeding out of his arm and his leg. And as I look at him, I'm like, and he just kind of looks at me, and he kind of turns his head to the right like this, and he spits what I thought was a tooth. And then I realized shortly that wasn't a tooth. He spit out a bullet. He had been shot in the leg, and the round ricocheted off his femur into his face. And the bullet was lodged in between his teeth and his gums. And he had spit the bullet out. Now, as I'm trying to, I have no aid kit on me because we're inside of our outpost. We don't have our kits on. We have our weapons on us, but you don't just walk around on the inside of your outpost with your body armor and your helmet and all your shit on. Like, that's usually set on your bed, and you put that on whenever the outpost comes under attack or when you go on mission. So I don't have none of my shit on me. So I start screaming out, medic, 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 medic. As I'm doing that, I hear somebody running in between the two bee huts. There's gravel. And I'm like, fuck, dude, this is like someone, like, this dude come back or there's more. And I go to look up because now my job right now is to fucking cover my guy and wait for Doc Lario to get here to help him. And I look up and it's Sergeant Gilson, my fellow team leader from my section, the Bravo team leader. And he's covered in blood. He's got a brown shirt on with his UCP multicam pants and his boots. And he just collapses in front of me. So now I got two of these dudes. And just as I'm about to yell out medic one more time, Doc Lario comes running towards me out of the back of the other bee hut with his aid bag. And he drops on me, and Howie's behind me screaming. He's in excruciating pain. He's been shot in the face, the arm, the leg. And as I'm kneeling down, I'm looking at Doc, and I'm looking at Sergeant Gilson, and he's so pale, man. He's just like gray pale. Like, he's a white dude from Florida, so he's already white, but this was different. He was just pale. And we lift up his shirt, and on the right side of his chest, just under his nipple, it's as if the inside of his chest just opened up inside out. It looked like cottage cheese or like cauliflower almost. And I remember I looked down at that, and I look at Doc Lario, and there's blood coming out, and he couldn't. And Gilson's like, he's telling us, I can't breathe, I can't. And I look, and to this day, the look that Doc Lario and I gave each other were like, he's not gonna make it. The Doc Lario snapped out of it. He gave me a decompression needle, and what you do in that situation when there's air in the chest cavity, you got to do a decompression needle. So you go 2 fingers down from the nipple into that space in between the ribs, and you slam it in, and that releases the air. And so we did that, and he immediately was able to breathe again. The pressure on his lungs was now relieved. He was breathing. So Doc Lario's got him under control. And by that time, Sergeant St. John comes over, and he's with Howley, and they start helping Howley out, and they start administering aid to him. And now I'm like, Doc, I don't hear anybody up there. Like, I got to get a couple guys and go fucking clear our living area, which is unheard of, that we have to go clear our very own outpost. It's one thing to go on a mission, have to clear rooms or clear a village or whatever, but we're clearing our own bee huts. So as I'm doing that, I come up, and Sergeant Tackett, who's from another section, he's one of my fellow team leaders, but he's with the other section. He's looking at me, and this is the first time I get to see the patio area in between the bee huts, and it's completely covered in blood. You can smell it. It's thick. And immediately my thoughts go back to Katrina, because it's that smell. It's that same blood smell. And I look over at Sergeant Tackett. I'm like, you good, bro? And he's like, yeah. I said, shoot anything that's not American that comes in between that space. Well, I got to clear this way and find the rest of the platoon. Like, where the fuck is everybody? Well, everyone was in the bunkers taking cover, or in between the bee huts taking cover, doing what we're trained to do, provide security. And as I'm coming in between 2 bee huts, there's one to my right, one to my left, and then the patio walking area. To my left, in between 2 HESCO barriers, standing in front of the door of his bee hut, was Clint Matoka. Clint Matoka's about as hard as you can get, man. Texas born. He's the machine gunner for that other section in my platoon. Big tough dude. Burly. Has a big dip in his mouth. He's got his Mark 48 machine gun right there, and he's not looking at me. He's looking to my right, hit straight ahead to him. And I'm like, Matoka, what's up? And he's like, I saw him go. I'm like, who? What the fuck you talking about? And I look down to my bottom right, and there's a pair of boots in between two HESCO barriers to my right, in front of the aid station door. And I immediately go over to it, and I look down, and I don't know who the fuck this person is. I don't recognize him. I remember I'm like, I even said out loud something to the effect of like, who is this? And I saw some blood on the chest, maybe a quarter size on the shirt, but underneath was a big pile of blood, thick blood, arterial blood. Like what we call arterial blood is like when you hit an artery or a main, an artery or like chest cavity and it bursts the heart, like a lot of blood, a lot of thick, dark blood. And I look down and I realize it's Martin. Gilson was pale, but he got his color back pretty quick. I didn't recognize Martin. He wasn't shot in the face. His eyes were kind of half open. He was like pale, gray. It was empty, man. I tried closing his eyes. They wouldn't shut at first. I'm on my knee next to him. And what I saw was emptiness. Like it was a shell. Now, up until that point, I'd seen dead bodies. I'd seen bodies blown up. I've seen the bodies I explained to you in New Orleans. Not even those bodies looked empty. They just looked dead. Like they didn't look empty. They looked like, like the guy I told you I saw in the hallway in New Orleans, like he looked like he was alive. I looked like I could talk to him. Looked like any moment he can stand up and just start having a conversation. Martin was gone. And I remember I hear some steps behind me and I look up and it's my platoon sergeant and I said, Martin's gone. I didn't say Martin was killed. I didn't say Martin died. Martin was gone. And that was that you don't have time. You don't have time to sit there and talk about it and look at it, and we still had to clear. So my platoon sergeant, in all his wisdom, and I admire him to this day for that, grabbed me, picked me up, and said, let's go. He's like, I'm behind you, let's go. And we started clearing every single bee hut, the mortar pit. We cleared every ounce of that outpost while the lieutenant and the other guys took Martin and bagged him up and got him ready for when the medevac picked up the other guys. That was smart of him because I think that would have really fucked me up if I stood there and stayed there. But he was empty, man. There was nothing there. It's like whatever Martin was, his essence, his spirit, whatever you want to call it, it was gone. I was looking at a shell. I was looking at just a shell, man. And out of all the things I've seen, that was by far the worst day of my life because that was my soldier. That was my guy. I knew him. I spoke to him. I bonded with him. I led him. I motivated him. I laughed with him. He was a goofy kid, man. He had a goofy laugh. He would be watching South Park on his laptop late at night in the bee huts and we're trying to sleep, and he'd have this goofy laugh, and I'd have to yell at him. You know, he wanted to be a nurse. We used to tease him and give him shit because he wanted to get out the army and become a nurse, you know. Now I look at it and I'm like, man, a single guy wanted to become a nurse. He was a genius. But what I saw that day, you know, the anniversary's coming up. It's coming up here in a few weeks, and it doesn't hurt anymore, less today than it did that day.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know where he went. I don't know what happened. I don't know. Something got sucked out of him and went somewhere. And I'm not a religious person anymore. I've lost my faith entirely, but I do believe that there's something. And wherever that is or whatever that is, I feel like he went back to it, call it the source. I don't know. But I'd like to think in my mind, because when I went back to Clint years later, and I said, when you told me that you saw him leave, what do you mean? And here's the strangest part. Clint told me that when he came out the bee hut, Martin was already shot. And that Martin had turned around, and when he turned around, he felt, this is coming from Clint, a Texan, the dude's never lied in his life. He said he felt like wind. And when I could do my best impression of him, but like, it's like a Texan telling a California boy, man, some wind done picked him up, and he got sucked out and he fell. And I missed it by a couple minutes. But Clint saw it, and, you know, for a Texan, as Texan as it gets, to see that, he never talks about it. He only talked about it that one time, but he told me enough to know that he watched something. He watched Martin leave, and I know, coming from a guy like me, that sounds weird, and I know I'm on a paranormal podcast right now, and I know nothing's really too weird, but he watched him go. And I saw the aftermath. Like, it wasn't just like a guy being killed in a combat scenario. He was killed, obviously, but the way he left was paranormal. It wasn't something we experienced in all the losses and death that we saw in war. None of us have experienced anything like that. Some of the guys that saw his body said, yeah, man, he looked like super pale. Maybe it was because all the blood that was gone. I don't know. But when I tell you he looked empty, even his eyes weren't the same color. Like, he got taken, man. He went somewhere, and I don't think he saw pain. I think he was in shock. I think the adrenaline was pushing it. But I think that, and it makes me feel better to think this, that whatever, he went so fast on his feet, something took him. I don't know, but that's that story. And
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, man. I know it has to be incredibly painful for you to relive this stuff, and I appreciate you doing it. I mean, I hate that you have to go through it, but I appreciate the hell out of you taking the time to do it, buddy.
I think a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah.
As hard as it is to hear, it's even harder for you to say. It's harder for you to live with. It's harder for you to have the images in your head, and you live with it every day. And we can say thank you so much, but we don't understand where you're coming from. And I really think that more people need to hear that side. And I appreciate you coming on here, being willing to be vulnerable and open up and say, hey, this is what in the hell I lived. You don't hear it.
that summer was the summer of 2012, and that event was what those have been called now are green on blue. So when you label American forces and enemy forces and allies on like a military overlay map, you've probably seen it in video games and stuff. America's always blue, the enemy's always red, allies are typically green. This was considered a green on blue attack, where one of our Afghan allies, in air quotes, turned on us and attacked us. That summer, all across America, there was over 20 of these that were aimed and successfully orchestrated against Marines, Army soldiers, sailors, special operations guys. This was very prevalent that year because they knew they couldn't go toe to toe with us. They knew that the only way to really get us is to get close.
Yep.
And get us, and it worked. And I have to.
Oh, pussy ass bitches.
I have to. Yeah, I mean, very cowardly, because this guy, what he had done, what we had found out, the reason he got away so quickly, that he had been planning this. He had known his route. He was going to come from the south, run through our bee huts on the patio, start shooting whoever he could, and then drop his rifle, run through the mortar pit, through the concertina wire, and a gap that he had made. He had literally made, like, dug through a gap and took off. And then there was a village that was not too friendly to us, about a click and a half away, that he ran to. It was all planned out. And there was video that was shown of him arriving in the town, and they were, la 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 la, all that stupid shit that they do, and cheering him on as a hero. He was tracked down and killed by a Special Forces ODA.
Oh, good. I was going to ask.
I want to say about a month later, we did get that intel. We were combat ineffective. So Specialist Halley lived. He lived. To this day, he's doing great. He's married, got children. He's come a long way. Sergeant Gilson lived. He's got 2 children. Still as Florida as it gets. I imagine he's somewhere right now driving in Florida in an old 1980s Camaro, smoking a Marlboro. Another guy in our platoon was shot, Cody Derryberry, actually from Tennessee. Cody Derryberry, he's a Native American dude, and he was shot one time. It went in and out his arm right here on his bicep. We thought it was nothing, in and out, too easy. His injury was actually the worst out of all 3 of them, because what that one round did was sever his nerve. Oh. And he had, I want to say, close to a dozen surgeries. He's got a scar that goes from his shoulder all the way down to his wrist. This man played guitar so good, it took him like 5 or 6 years to be able to relearn how to, I heard recently that he's playing guitar. I don't talk to him as much, but one round, he almost lost his entire arm. But they all lived. Most of our platoon still talks to each other. Most of us are still very close. You got guys that have to go through their numbers, and I definitely went through mine. I definitely went through post-traumatic stress and substance abuse and all that. But what I can say is that while I lost my faith, as far as like Christianity or anything like that, I got very strong in understanding energy and understanding just what some people would call spirits. I think there's so much more to reality. I really do. I mean, I hear these podcasts and about how Sasquatches can, phase in and out, and you were talking about portals. I think it's all real. I think that we've just become so, we've just lost touch with it. And,
yeah,
I struggle sometimes, but other times it's like, I know that, like, when I die, like, I'm not just gonna, that's it, I'm going somewhere. And I hope that when I'm there, one of the first people I see is Corporal Ethan Martin from Bonners Ferry, Idaho.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, man. Like I said, I know all of this was very, very tough for you to relive, and I can't tell you how grateful I am for you to to do it here with us and share on this Independence Day weekend. Cannot think of a better person to have on for this weekend than you, my friend. Thank you so very much for your service, all the sacrifices that you've made, everything that you have done for this country, everything you continue to do. You're awesome. You're an inspiration. And I greatly appreciate having you in my life, buddy.
I appreciate you guys, your guys' shows, man. I listen to that Bigfoot show every week. I listen to this show every week. I listen to the Sasquatch Odyssey show every week. I'm trying to get on that trip in October with my son. Um, we got a lot going on right now, and with business and stuff. I'm skydiving out of an airliner jet tomorrow. It's my 300th skydive. So right now my plate's full, but you guys, man, being in that chat group with you guys and with Troy and with Jay, man. I've never met Jay, but that dude, I feel like he's one of my newest pals right now. And
Yeah.
just talking to you guys, man, you've opened up a whole new world for me, and I love the group. And somebody posted in there today that they're from Southern California, and I'm literally here right now. Right? So I hope I can meet some people and actually go on an expedition sometime, and I would love to experience the big man. I think, man, and if they can mind read, hopefully they know that this little 5'6" combat vet dude isn't a threat, and maybe they'd like to throw a rock at me or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's awesome, man. Hopefully, God, I hope one day we get to meet in person, buddy.
I know. I would just love to hug you. I just want to hug you.
We will. Trust me, man. I'm in the process of buying a house, and business is booming right now. But I got customers that don't like to pay on time, and so I gotta really kind of get through this house purchasing and this phase of my business, and then I definitely want to make it around and do some squatching in your guys' neck of the woods, literally.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, buddy. We will stay in touch.
Yeah.
And
Hope I didn't bring anybody down.
No, you didn't, dude. You are one of my dudes, and I appreciate you very, very much, Chad. Thank you for everything that you do, buddy. Everything that you have done. Continued success in your life, I hope, and thank you again, my friend.
I appreciate you guys, man.
Enjoy that 300.
Oh man, I'm about to go hang out.
You better post some pictures, man. I want to see some pictures tomorrow. Okay.
You will. There's gonna be a video of it.
All right.
All right. Take care, guys. See ya.
All right, buddy. Be careful. Be good. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye. Love him.
Yeah, he is awesome. I love Chad. Just a good dude. I listen to Chad, and as much shit as he's gone through in his life, all the hurt and everything that he has talked about on our show, it still makes me kind of wish that my circumstances had been different. Like if I hadn't become a father at such a young age, I really think I would have gone into the military. Mm-hmm. And I would have had a lot of these experiences myself. I mean, there's a chance I wouldn't be here right now if that happened. I just so much respect for our armed forces, our veterans, our soldiers. Just God, I love those guys and gals.
Yeah, and the thing is that I meant what I said. People need to hear that. Yeah. They don't get to hear that. And like I said, I know it's hard to hear, but at the same time, I think it's helpful to talk about, to realize they're not alone, because they go through so much when they come back home, with survivor's guilt and, just dealing with everything that they saw and experienced over there.
The suicide rate for veterans, I mean, it's just, I can't think of much more that would be more sad.
Yeah.
They just can't live with themselves for their stuff that they saw, for feeling just the guilt that they survived and their brothers or sisters didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's what my dad dealt with. Now, I wasn't born when my dad got home from Vietnam, but, from what he said, it was, I heard stories that I still remember, and anyways, he took pills and drank. You know, it was the way he coped.
Yeah. I don't know. It's sad. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Guys, the next time you see one of our service people, shake their hand, tell them thank you, and that you appreciate them. I just have no toleration for people that badmouth our soldiers, or you, however you feel about our government. That's fine. You feel that way. I agree with you in most circumstances. But our soldiers, I mean, come on.
Well,
Those,
and you look, not to interrupt you, I'm terribly
no,
sorry.
you're good. You're good.
They come home from situations like Chad has talked about tonight and he talked about before. And they come home, and a lot of them, they end up having to live on the street.
God.
It's disgusting that they go from having to deal with that and see that, and they're on the street. Like, what is wrong with this picture?
There's so much wrong.
Like, there's no reason that they should be homeless and hungry, and after doing what they did over there. It's despicable.
There's so much wrong, and I have no idea how to fix it, but maybe one day we'll get someone in office that can.
Yeah. It's
all right. I don't know who all will be on Discord after this, but I'm going to jump over there and see if anybody wants to hang out. Hopefully, we'll get to see some of our regulars. If you are members and you have not reached out to Tiffany or myself to get that link, please do so. Just at your earliest convenience. If you want to right now, Tiffany and I are obviously awake. We're up. We will respond to you to get you on. I don't know if Tiffany's going to be over there, but I'm going to jump over on Discord and hang out with some of our peeps. And anybody that wants to become a member, y'all can do the same thing. $1.99 a month.
It's not much that we're asking.
Not at all.
I was going to pull up who we're going to have Tuesday. Just to give you guys a heads up, July is going to be shorter for us because we do have the Bigfoot Con coming up, and I'm going to be out of town with Mr. Tiffany from the 22nd through the 25th, and then the next day we leave to go to Tennessee. So you guys be sure to stick around and stay tuned. Hit the notification bell because we will be putting out pre-recorded videos for you guys to hold you over. And I'm sure that I could talk Wayne into doing maybe a members only from the cabin. Maybe that would be fun.
Oh, man, that would be a blast.
Yes. I came up with that idea all by myself today.
Good for you.
Yeah. Actually, Zach was talking about how cool it would be to do a members only, so I can't take all the credit. I just said it. He thought it.
But to answer your question, next Tuesday, we got Mr. Matthew Maynard.
Awesome.
Who is a member.
Yes.
Of this. He is a member here and is also active on the Discord. So maybe we'll see him over there. But yeah, we should have Matthew this Tuesday. That should be very, very fun and interesting.
Yes.
All right. You got anything before we get out of here, ma'am?
I don't. I think I rattled my gums and said everything I needed to say.
Well, that's good.
Another happy birthday to Alex. We appreciate the hell out of you, and I hope that your day was as amazing as you are.
Love you, buddy. Thank you so very much, Alex. Happy birthday, buddy. Love you. And we will talk soon. Everybody else, y'all take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Bye.
Bye.
Later.